Then, how are we all? So, we're going to look at remote ID. What is it and what it has to do? And we're going to debunk a few myths about it as well. So, remote ID requirements, and this is in CAP 722. It's also in all the YASA deregulation stuff. But basically, it has to do a few things. And it has to be fitted to any UAS, any drone that's class C1 or C2 or C3, sorry, and also those flying in the specific category. So this is what it has to do. Now, the first thing we're going to say is that in the regulations, it clearly states that this information has to be receivable by a mobile phone, a tablet, doesn't have to be connected to the internet at all. So this data that it's going to transmit is only local. That's the first myth to debunk, that it will tell other air users where you are. It doesn't. It only tells anyone that's got an iPad or an iPhone with the right app where you are and where the aircraft is. That's the first thing that's important. Where the aircraft is does not get transmitted to other air users. Very, very important. So that's the first thing that you have to know. Now, it's going to transmit this data in real time, and this is the information that it's going to pump out to anyone with an iPad or an iPhone or a tablet, Android or anything. Remember, it's not going online yet, and it's not going to other air users. So it's going to transmit the drone operator registration number and the verification code provided by the CAA. It's going to transmit the unique serial number of the unmanned aircraft. It's going to timestamp everything as it's flying in real time. So the geographical position of the drone is height above the surface or takeoff point. So if it takes off from a point, flies over a hill, it'll be its height from its takeoff point, not necessarily the ground beneath it, because it won't know that. Now it's going to actually show people the route, and it's going to measure that with true north and ground speed of the unmanned aircraft. It's also going to show the geographical position of the remote pilot and an indication of the emergency status of the drone itself. So let's start with number one. It's going to transmit the operator registration number and verification code provided by the CAA. This is all to be decided yet, but this is not good, because this means if you can see someone's registration ID, you can see whose drone it is. We'll get to why that's important in a minute. Unique serial number of the drone, well, it's already on the aircraft anyway. Why does it need to be transmitted electronically? Who knows? Real-time transmission of where it is and what it's doing. Now, this is important. If you're a commercial operator, and this is really important now, because if you're a commercial operator, if you're like me, you fly for a lot of clients. Your clients do not want where you are transmitting to anyone. They don't want people to know what you're doing. And it might sound, what have they got to hide? It's not about that. If you're doing commercially sensitive work and the way you fly is a particular style, and it's your unique selling point to your services, and it's your USP, you don't want people to know how you did the job, because they're going to be able to physically log in, see your registration details, go, that's Tom over there. He's on a film set. I know Tom. I can see he's on a film set. Look, he's just over there. We can go and find him. And then they can find the details of a film set, for example. It'd be easier to find film sets and TV shows. Those guys don't want their locations pumping out anywhere. That will do harm to the industry. Then you've got people that do a lot of building inspections, a lot of corporate work. And what you're going to have is the ability to be able to go into a town centre, see who's flying, walk around, find out what building they're flying. From there you can work out their clients. And from there, you can work out, right, those guys use drones. I know him. Look at that operation. I can go in and undercut. It's going to cause harm to the industry. It's not been thought about, this system, at all, just in my opinion anyway. So there's a lot of bad things about remote ID in that respect, and giving away locations. Now, giving away locations, we're going to move on to the other bit. The geographical position of the remote pilot. Talk about breaching GDPR. While you've got no expected, while in public places, if someone takes a photo of you, as long as they don't name stamp you and give your time and location, they're not breaking GDPR. If you're caught in the background of a photo, that's fine. However, I don't know about everyone else, but I have had in about, it's coming up for about 10 years now, flying drones. I've only had, luckily, about 4 instances of where people have had a go at me. However, as soon as you can find the position of a remote pilot, instances of abuse and harassment are going to go up. Now, the CIA will go, oh, the police can deal with that. Why waste the police time when we didn't have the problem in the first place? You're creating a problem. In America, it'll be even worse, because in America, they've got guns in America. Guess what's going to happen? I'm willing to bet they'll bring out remote ID. I reckon within a year, someone will get shot. I reckon a remote pilot will get shot. And let's bear in mind, no one's died from a drone yet anyway. And then finally, we've got the indication of an emergency status of the drone. I'm not sure why that's needed, because, you know, the remote pilot's flying it, you're keeping it visual line of sight. You know, again, to date, no one's died from a drone, even when it's in its emergency situation. So that's what remote ID has to do. And it has to transmit all this stuff. Now, again, it's only transmitting it, and you're going, well, it only transmits to someone's phone or tablet. Well, it doesn't take someone with a bit of know-how to get a Raspberry Pi, to pick up that signal and then broadcast it across the internet. And before you know it, you will have a network remote ID. And again, you'll be able to sit at home, you'll be able to find out what film sets are being flown, what people are doing corporate-wise. You'll be able to see all this stuff, and you'll be able to find out who's doing it. And then you'll be able to work out. I mean, it is going to be damaging to businesses for sure, and for the way people fly and they operate. If you've got a particular style in the way you capture 3D modelling, and trust me, while there's a lot of stuff online, there's a lot of things as well that you have to do, but people are going to be able to see all this stuff. So it's really interesting. And remote ID, let's look at why they say we need remote ID as well. I think that's quite important, and we'll just debunk a few myths on that. So, one of the biggest things they say is it'll make the skies safer. This is one of the biggest fallacies about remote ID in this format. Remember, it's not, the data doesn't go anywhere, it's not going to other aircraft, it's not going to ATCs. So the biggest fallacy and the biggest joke is on manned aviation if they think that remote ID means they're going to be able to see where drones are. So safer skies, no, it's not going to make the skies safer. And you have to look at the current drone record on safety. In the past 10 years, you've been lucky to be able to output one incident a year where a drone has hit an aircraft. Has not brought it down, hasn't caused a massive fireball, hasn't crashed, hasn't killed anyone. So this is the biggest fallacy of all things. When people blab on about safety and it'll make the sky safer and drones safer, even the FAA recently in Congress doing their brief to, I believe it was some judges and Congress people, he said it'll make the sky safer because manned aviation will see where drones are. Well, they won't. They can't. This is not transmitted to any device that manned aviation will be using to navigate the skies. So that's just sheer BS. The next one is security. So security, if someone's going to do something, something bad and horrible, would you put remote ID on that drone before it flew? No. And if you wanted to confuse everyone and you want to do something bad, and remote ID was the thing that, you know, people go, oh, but it's the one without the remote ID that's the bad drone. Well, that's simple. All you do is get 10 people to fly 10 drones. There's 11 in the sky. You know, all you need is a person to lock up and go, oh yes, there's a few drones around here flying today. And the one that's not got remote ID will just come through and get its target. So the security side of it is just horseshit. It really is. So basically, remote ID in this format is just pure BS. And I'd like to thank YASA for lying to us when they said, we won't screw around with the hobby rules too much and all this, that and the other. You lied, YASA, and you lied really well. And remote ID is one of the biggest fallacies of drones and drone safety and security going. Just to put that out there. And anyone that's working on it, you're working on the wrong thing. Millions have been spent on remote ID, and they've spent it all on the wrong thing. Where they should have spent the money is on electronic conspicuity, and we'll now get onto that. Okay. Right then. So, electronic conspicuity. What is that? Well, it's a little bit different to remote ID, only in the fact what it's going to do. It's now going to transmit to everyone. It's like a plain transponder, ADSB that we are aware of for manned aviation. Basically, we need that, but for drones. We don't need a remote ID that just transmits to a tablet or a phone or any of that kind of rubbish. What we need is proper transponders. So there's a couple of things out there already. They could have taken and adapted. Open Glider Network is for one. And then we've also got flight radar, and that shows all the ADSB planes in the sky. However, what's really interesting, ADSB planes can turn it off. They can flick a switch, or they'll pay companies like Air Maps and 360 Radar not to appear. So they might have a VIP on board. They don't want to know they're flying into a country. They'll just flip it off so you can't tell where it is at a point in time in the sky. And they don't appear on these maps, which is terrible. And all in my head, and I don't know about everyone else, but I think anything in the sky, be it a paramotor, be it a glider, be it hang gliders, be it a drone, be it a Cessna, microlights, you name it, if it's aviation, we should have transponders. And that way, we don't need a cell network to be nearby. We don't need to rely on anything other than it's transmitting. I'm here, I'm an aircraft, I'm here. And it would talk to every other aircraft around it. Now that's what we need. Now, it has to be pointed out that manned aviation before now has objected to this. They don't want it as a mandatory thing. However, there's a lot of drone flyers out there. We're going to get remote ID rammed down our throats because there's no one saying to the CAA or anyone else, no one logical on our side going, this is pure BS what you're up to. And yeah, manned aviation, you know, they seem to have a bit of a voice and a bit of power and go, no, we don't want it. And the CAA goes, oh, okay, we won't force it on you then. You know, they have done schemes where the CAA will pay £250 towards an ADSB unit. Are they going to do that for drone flyers? With 100,000 of us? Don't think so, do you?
Very nice.
So it is interesting, you know, and even today, the big myth is that ATCs know where everything in the sky is at any point in time. The Congress meeting, the FAA, that, you know, the lie is they don't know where everything is. Once it's outside controlled airspace, typically ATCs, air traffic controllers, have no idea what's going on out there, you know. They have no idea how high a plane is, a glider, a microlight, where it's going, what its track is. They don't know any of this stuff at all. And if you're going to bring something in, would you not bring something in for the lower amount of air users, make sure it works for them, and then go, right, okay, it works for you guys, so what we're going to do is we're now going to bring that in to the rest of the air users. Now, if they were to do that, manned aviation will get it first, so they will get electronic conspicuity first, make sure it works, because there's only, there's maybe 100,000 if we're lucky of them, we're another 100,000 on top, so, it's cheaper for them to do it, to test it, and then we could adopt it. And if it works for them, it'll work for us. The device technology doesn't have to be big, and that's the important bit. So this is where I think we should have gone down. It should have been electronic conspicuity. It doesn't show where the pilot took off from. It does show the route of the aircraft, and it would unlock beyond visual line of sight. Because if you can see everything in the sky, and everything's got a transponder, it's part of detect and avoid. So hang on a minute. The drone can see the other aircraft, it takes avoiding action. The great thing is, the orange cube, that does this. The orange cube, it actually can receive ADSB signals, and it detects and goes, oh, there's a aircraft coming along this way. It will make the decision by itself, if you tell it to turn away and change course, heading and height, away from that incoming aircraft. It will actually do that for you. So if they truly want to unlock BV loss, that's the way to go. It has to be electronic conspicuity. It would be safer. It's not BS like remote ideas. And that's the way we should go down, in my rather lonely, humble opinion. Anyway, it's a bit of a long one, this one, isn't it? It's a nice little old rant. So, yeah, give us electronic conspicuity. Remote ID is a load of BS. Anyone that thinks remote ID is a good idea, yeah, you're just full of crap. So, anyone quoting safety as a reason to have remote ID, let's see the justification for safety, because it's just pure BS. Security, again, it's just pure BS, because anyone doing something nefarious or bad, would you put remote ID on that aircraft? You wouldn't, would you? So for security reasons and for safety reasons, remote ID are just purely BS. And I will happily call anyone out that says it's safety and security reasons, because they don't know, really, to be honest. Or understand the tech, maybe. Electronic conspicuity, let's have us all beeping around in the sky, and it only shows you track for a short time, and it doesn't require an iPad, doesn't require an iPhone, it doesn't require a network, because anything that uses like electronic conspicucy, some of people say, oh well, we're going to use the telephone network. Well, that's going to be good. How secure is that? How often do you get a cell signal? I work in so many countryside places, getting a mobile signal, fat chance. Then you have to have that unit certified by Ofcom, because you can transmit from the air. Oh God. Look at Lank in America. That went down. Those poor guys, screwed to a degree. They had to go back to the old way of doing things. So you can't rely on mobile networks. It should just be transponder on the aircraft, make sure it works for a takeoff, and that's it. It should be that simple. Unfortunately, everyone likes to overcomplicate everything, because they think you have to have 100 different things to get the simplest answer. And that's where we're going wrong. Right. Take care, everyone. Have a good one. Bit of a rant, this one. Cheers.